Hello, everyone, once again, and welcome to another edition of this wrestling show that I put on once in a while, just to blog about certain anomalies, certain questions, and for that matter, to kind of bring answers to questions that no one asked. I mean, I know that a lot of you don't really ask these questions. It's just me basically talking to myself. Nonetheless, let's get straight to it. I suck at intros, so I do apologize. I wish that I had like an editor to like edit something, and then me just be like, "Whoa, here's what's going on, yeah." But unfortunately, I'm not that type of TV personality to be able to do something like that. I'm dull and boring, and not sure why people would watch me. Nonetheless, we're going to focus more on why Randy Orton thinks he's the best in the world, rather the greatest of all time. We're going to focus a little bit on Undisputed Era, Adam Cole himself, as well as Roddy Strong and his new gimmick. We're going to talk a little bit about Chris Jericho versus Orange Cassidy a little bit more in depth. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and get to that right now. I really haven't watched AEW, so I don't know what's happening behind their scenes, but here's how I would do it. Put these boys on an elevated platform and allow people to basically see what it is that they can do. We already know that Orange Cassidy is kind of a wrestling stretch, if you will. The boy doesn't even wrestle that much. He goes against the grain. As we talked about before, Cassidy does nothing more than just take his hands and put them like right under his waistband. Not even like in where your underwear is. Not even where your pockets are. I mean, he just doesn't care. Almost like he's just nonchalant, laid back. He's like Fonzie, whatever the fucking guy's name is. He used to come in with a comb and comb back and slick back his hair. Hey, what's the matter? It talk like that, basically. The Fonz, I guess, is his name. I don't know. I never watched Happy Days or Happy Times or Rock Around the Clock all day long or whatever the fuck the song was. We're gonna rock around the clock tonight. Rock, rock, rock. Okay, I don't want to get demonetized for some music that I've probably never heard before in my life, but even though I've probably heard it once or twice, it's not important. The point is, that's the way that Cassidy comes off a little bit. And Jericho, if you've been a wrestling fan for the past 25 to 30 years, you already know who Chris Jericho is. You already have known who Chris Jericho was, and for that matter, you're familiar with the man, or if you're even a fan of music, because Chris Jericho also has his own band, and a few of his music, some of his albums have reached top tier, have almost grazed 10 million records being sold. He's pretty much number one, top of the charts as far as iTunes goes. The boy is a success no matter how you look at him, and one loss to Orange Cassidy won't do anything to the man's record, but no one really knows who Cassidy is. And this is a great opportunity for Orange Cassidy in order to get some notoriety. I mean, I didn't know who Orange Cassidy was until AEW told me, until they showed up, and him and Uh, I keep wanting to say Tony Taylor, but that's not the man's name. Chuck Taylor, not the man who makes the shoes. Chuck Taylor is a professional wrestler. He's sort of a meme, actually. He's not really a professional wrestler. I mean, he's pretty good at, being entertaining, but that's about it. Chuck Taylor and Trent. Don't ask me what Trent's last name is. I'm kind of drawing a blank. Chuck Taylor and Trent, though they're kind of best friends, And that brings me to our next subject. Kind of speaking of Chuck Taylor and Trent, they are facing Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega for the AEW Tag Team Championships. Now, Omega and Page aren't exactly, friends, but Trent and Chuck Taylor are the best of friends. To see a dynamic like that is somewhat amusing. To see two guys that aren't even friends, they're just business partners, but they're tag team champions. And to see two guys that are the best of friends and are, chasing those tag team titles. To see a dynamic like this is somewhat amusing, but at the same time, it's not exactly like a wild card of a match, because you want to see the true dynamic of how these business partners will match with these friends, what exactly it is, what kind of story will they tell, what's going to happen whenever the best of friends, or so they claim that they are, Chuck Taylor and Trent, go up against Hangman Adam Page. Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega. Omega and Page have made it really clear that they don't like each other. Page said he likes to drink, and Omega made it really clear that he's not going to be Adam Page's drinking buddy, but he will help him retain those tag team titles. However, going back to my original point of Orange Cassidy facing off against Chris Jericho, they need to put these boys on an elevated platform. They need to basically not make this a one-on-one match, because that would just be boring as fuck. Orange Cassidy and Chris Jericho are not boring. However, their first match should not be a one-on-one, just throwaway match. Especially not at a major pay-per-view like, I think it's called Fight or Feast. Something like that, Could be thinking of a TNA pay-per-view from a long time ago. But I'm pretty sure that one was called Feast or Fired, not Fight or Feast. I don't really know what the dynamic of this pay-per-view is, whether it's, like some pay-per-views have themes to them, I'm not really sure what the theme of this one is, but I'm starting to draw more and more closer to the fact that they have basically taken people like Orange Cassidy that people don't know, and they've created this persona for them to let them know who they are. And quite frankly, it's such a good storytelling that you almost forget that you're watching a TV show. You kind of think that, hey, this could be a reality show if they put a little bit more pizzazz into it. But wrestling and reality really wouldn't bode well together. Randy Orton. Randy Orton seems to think that he is the greatest of all time, is what he has proclaimed, simply because he's taken out a few legends in the WWE's relatively long history. and a few of those legends haven't really. They're unofficial legends. Edge, Christian, people who have been around for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, but not exactly enough time to be like, oh, okay, they're actual legends. I mean, I remember watching him whenever I was a little boy. No, it's people my age who remember watching them whenever they were a little boy, 25, 26 years old. Randy Orton, however, isn't really all that good. I've got a DVD right here that's Randy Orton, Evolution of a Predator. As much as that makes him sound like a child molester, he's really quite a heroic man whenever you come to look at it. And I've watched it maybe 3 or 4 times because the Wi-Fi's been out on my house, and I've had nothing better to do. But I'm not really that much of a Randy Orton fan at the same time. Over the years, he's lost his pizzazz, and he can still do everything that there is to do in the wrestling business. But whenever you see someone on a week to week to week to week basis, you start to kind of burn out on them. It's kind of like if you eat hamburgers all day, every day, all year. Eventually, you're going to get tired of eating hamburgers. You're going to want something more than hamburgers. And then for the rest of your life, you're going to be like, oh, I don't want a fucking hamburger. God damn. Randy Orton's that hamburger for me. I don't want hamburgers anymore. I don't. I want deer meat. I want something that I can actually, eat. Hamburger stale, You get what I'm saying? It's less flavorful whenever you've had it forced down your mouth so many times. Nonetheless, Randy Orton is kind of that dull hamburger now. He's not really anything fresh and anything like and that's what really doesn't make him, the lack of flavor is really what doesn't make him the greatest of all time. And that's probably just my opinion, but I would imagine that it's also popular opinion because I make a lot of good points in this retrospect. Randy Orton is the 3rd generation superstar, no doubt. Just like Charlotte Flair. And there's something else that I should probably talk about while I'm here. Charlotte Flair, Randy Orton, these people who are brought into the company, The Rock, with this notion that their family was in this business. Keep in mind, especially Charlotte herself, she has a legacy to live up to, people. It's just not, oh, Daddy held her hand the entire time she was there, and that's why she got a job. If she wasn't top tier, they wouldn't allow her to be on that wrestling show. Or for that matter, they wouldn't allow her to be in wrestling at all. They would just be like, hey Charlotte, you're a pretty face, you've been working out a lot, what do you say you accompany your dad to the ring for, I don't know, his last 2 years of wrestling, because you're not ready for prime time. And it would show too. Think about Eva Marie. I mean, the woman's a model now, but she should have never been a professional wrestler to begin with. And a lot of that has to do with people showing favoritism. People think that just because that Charlotte Flair, her dad was a professional wrestler, and one of the greatest of all time, unlike Randy Orton, sorry, one of the greatest of all time, they think that Charlotte just practically can't do any wrong, but that's not the truth at all. Charlotte, despite her father, despite her brother being a professional wrestler for the longest time, if that were the case, there's a boy by the name of David Benoit who would already be known to this day for his father and what he had done. However, just because his relative was a professional wrestler and one of the best, once again, I'm trying to drive that point home, regardless of how this man died, it's not about how he died, it's how he lived his life. Chris Benoit, even though he died the way that he did, David Benoit would still be able to live off of this boy's legacy. But unfortunately, David Benoit isn't exactly able to live off of that legacy. Now, he could have just said, "Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll use the Benoit name," instead of just being like, he's not really my uncle, or he's not really like, my dad's brother or anything like that. I don't know the, honest to God, I don't know the relationship between Chris and David. All that I know is that David Benoit was a name that popped up in the independent circuit one day while I was doing some research for a video. I never talked about it, of course, but now that the whole Charlotte Flair thing has popped into my mind while we're talking about it, or we're talking about Randy Orton, but we're talking about nepotism as a whole is what I feel like needs to be discussed, because just because your father, your grandfather, just because someone that is in this business doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have a golden ticket to the top of the line. And I feel like that should be something that needs to be said. Adam Cole. I almost forgot. I was about to end this video. Adam Cole is one of the greatest of all time. Whether he's in the WWE, his girlfriend also is in AEW. Britt Baker is a beautiful and talented lady who quite possibly could be considered one of the greatest women wrestlers of all time, behind the likes of, as I mentioned, Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, Bayley, Tessa Blanchard. Tessa, looking out for you. She needs to come home, stop fucking around in WoW, and stop fucking around in Impact Wrestling. Tessa, we miss you. Brooke Tessmacher, this woman really plays your feelings. Britt Baker is a beautiful, elegant flower, and she needs to bloom into something that quite possibly she could take over the world if she wanted to. Adam Cole is the man. I'm just going to come out and say it right now. There is nothing that can stop this boy from achieving his dreams if he puts his mind to something, and especially with Undisputed Era. I wanted to pull their hand sign right now, but I probably would get it wrong. I'm thinking that I got it wrong. Yeah, probably. Or that I'm doing it with the wrong hands. But nonetheless, Undisputed Era is a beautiful, beautiful tag team dynamic that they have going on right now. It is one of the greatest tag teams that I've ever seen. One of the greatest stables, one of the greatest quadruples that I've ever seen happen. You've got Adam Cole, you've got Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, and you've got Roddy Strong. These four men cannot be stopped. You put them together and they are a force to be reckoning with, especially Roddy Strong. And as of late, they've given Roddy Strong one of the worst fucking gimmicks in the world. And that's what I wanted to touch on just a little bit. I don't understand this strong man gimmick that he had before. Just the strong man made him look so fucking powerful. And now And now you want to make him look like a coward? The exact opposite? He's afraid of everything. He's afraid of Trunks. He's afraid of everything. He runs away more than he fights, more than he does anything in the world. And that's not like a great wrestling gimmick. It's something that shows that he's somewhat of a coward. You don't want these men to look bad. You don't want them to look weak. I mean, since 2017, August 2017 is when this group came together. And they've done nothing but run roughshod through everybody who's basically tried to pin them down. And now, all of a sudden, out of the blue, Roddy Strong is just the weakest member of Undisputed Era. Oh my God. Why? Why was Roddy Strong ever portrayed to be such a weak character when before he was so strong? His submission maneuver is literally called the Stronghold. His last name is literally Strong. Whenever I type it into my iPhone, here's what pops up, just to show you. Here's what pops up. Literally the emoji whenever I type in Strong. That's what Strong means. It's basically like a flexing arm in my emojis. Now that I've gotten everything out for this week's video, I'd like to thank everyone for stopping by. And this video is droned on for too long, so thank you so much for the support. Thank you so much for hopefully you tune in to watch Jericho face off against Orange Cassidy if that's something that you're into. I have another video up in, I won't make any promises, but it'll probably be up in a week or so. I've started to become extremely busy with life and such other things, and I do appreciate the patience. I'm really not getting too many people complaining. Wonderful. Usually I get a lot of complaints. Oh, you don't upload too much. Oh. Or other complaints include you should stop picking on Kevin Owens. He's doing the best that he can. Okay, Mark, go home. I don't want to feel like a scared little puppy dog in a corner somewhere. Just be like, but I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. Thanks for tuning in.